Welcome back. This is part 2 of my chronic fatigue recovery story. And if you haven't watched part 1 yet, I highly suggest you go back and watch that one first, because there I explain what I had tried for the first 4 years and nothing was working, and some things were making things actively worse. In this part, I will talk about what the foundational pieces were that were missing, and then what I was doing and the timeline of how I actually got out of chronic fatigue and healed completely. And that process took another 4 years, but it was exciting because I could see the changes and I could see my energy coming back, the pain reducing, my sleep getting better. I'm Naomi Galinsky, and my own recovery path is what inspired me to become a somatic trauma therapist, somatic experiencing practitioner, craniosacral therapist, and nervous system educator. And now I help other high-functioning people heal trauma by reconnecting to their body so that they get to experience physical and emotional well-being. And this channel is here for you to understand your human experience through the lens of trauma, nervous system, inner child work, transgenerational patterns, and cultural messaging passed down, for example, through colonialism and patriarchy. At the end of 2017, so that's 4 years into my recovery journey, that's when I discover Irene Lyon's work and I join her program, Smart Body, Smart Mind. And I learn about the nervous system. I start understanding trauma and what traumas that I was carrying in my body. And I started doing the somatic practices in the program, as well as joining a Feldenkrais class because she was a Feldenkrais practitioner, as well as a somatic experiencing practitioner, but she talked big about Feldenkrais, so I wanted to try that out. I found a somatic experiencing practitioner for myself to do private sessions. And I finally admitted to myself that I cannot work that much if I want to heal. I was in denial that I can keep it all, that I somehow can keep all the balls juggling and keep on the hamster wheel and heal at the same time, but I couldn't. And part of the reason why I didn't want to drop everything was because I felt like everything would fall apart. I didn't have financial support from anyone. I was supporting myself, so it was terrifying to feel like I might lose my job if I asked for reduced hours. But I did it, and I had the time to be able to rest and start healing. And I noticed that slowly my energy would come back and my brain fog started lifting. And it's not that I noticed that day to day, it was looking back 3 months from the beginning of the first Smart Body, Smart Mind program, the round of that program that I did, that I could notice the difference. And end of that year, I went to Colombia because my dad was marrying a Colombian wife, and that was the first fun trip that I did for myself. I still was struggling with sleep, and I needed a lot of rest, and I couldn't hike and do a lot of things. But my family around me and my dad's wife's family were very accommodating. In 2018, my 5th year of healing, lots of big changes happen. I do 2 more rounds of Smart Body, Smart Mind. And I start a new neurotransmitter protocol, which was, instead of the ones for Parkinson's disease, it was using DHEA and pregnenolone, the 2 hormones, at a really high dose. I did have side effects, but not as bad as the other one. And that also gave me a boost of energy, knowing that I still had to do the nervous system regulation work at the same time. Otherwise, once I took the supplements away or the hormones away, I would go crashing back to the bottom. So I continued doing the somatic experiencing. I started trying breath work. But now I'm slowing down the healing, so I'm not attacking it anymore. because I am more in tune with my nervous system, and now I'm going at the pace my nervous system is able to go at. And I start learning what's too much and what's just enough. And that is a game changer to learning, to healing from a chronic illness. You have to have this internal interoception, awareness of your internal sensation to understand what is good for you, what doesn't work, what's too much, and what's just right. So those are the things I started learning. And that year I realized I also can't stay at my job anymore. I don't like it. I'm unhappy. I can't work just 32 hours. It's not enough income, and I still need to pay for healing. And so I figure out how to be a contract worker or freelance worker so I can work less hours but get more paid hourly. And that year, I got so excited by this healing journey and that somatic experiencing work that I wanted to become a somatic experiencing practitioner. But to become that, I had to be in the wellness industry. And so I decided to start a psychotherapy program. And I found one which was part-time. It was in the evenings. It sounded like it wasn't as much work as, let's say, going back to university, which I didn't want to. I couldn't financially afford that, nor would I have the energy for that. And so I entered this program called Clear Mind. And the first year of Clear Mind, so it's a 3-year practitioner training program. And the first year was all about healing ourselves. And so we start digging into our emotional wounds connected to our family system. And that was the next layer of healing that helped me on top of the nervous system stuff that I was already doing. And in that program, what I also received was group support. Before that, I was feeling like I was broken. Who wants to spend time with me? That's why I wasn't hanging out with friends, because I had nothing exciting to say about my life. And that was the first time that I was supported by, I can't remember how many were in my class, but maybe 15 people who just loved me for who I was without judging or shaming me. And that was so healing. And that was a co-regulation piece that I was missing prior as well, trying to heal all on my own. And in this year, 2018, my 5th year, my sleep starts improving. I still have difficulties falling asleep, and I'm using yoga nidras to fall asleep. It still takes a couple of hours, but I'm able to fall asleep and sleep through more of the night. My back pain and the physical pain from being hit by a car also disappears from doing nervous system regulation and consistent Feldenkrais practices. And in general, I start feeling energy and excitement for life again. The fact that I have energy to even consider a career change is testament to that. In 2019, so that would be my 6th year of recovery. So I'm finishing the first year of Clear Mind, and the 2nd year of Clear Mind starts. And that was just an amazing journey of learning about my transgenerational trauma that was stuck in my body. There was a lot of healing around family systems, inner child stuff, and just being surrounded by 15 other people and even more from other classes. More people that were on the same healing path was so freaking healing. And I managed to switch jobs. I get my first contract position as a technical writer. And for the first 3 months, I do a part-time technical writing foundational course. So not only am I doing the psychotherapy part-time program, I'm doing a part-time program to learn technical writing, the foundations of anyways. And I switch to becoming a freelancer for the first time. And I have the energy to do that. I also do Smart Body, Smart Mind for the 4th round while all of this is happening. I'm socializing more, and I start dabbling in rock climbing. It's a little early for that, but I try. I also try to date again. Again, it's a little early for that, but I try. I'm also able to visit friends and travel more. Even though it's within British Columbia, I was still able to hang out with friends more. I start fixing my dental issues now that my nervous system is more regulated. I start fixing one of the root canals, which was infected, and I was getting an implant. The first round went terrible, but I survived it. Eventually it got fixed. And what was really cool in my career was that by the end of the year, I got a contract with Samsung. And they paid me at a much higher rate than I had been ever paid before. And I doubled my annual income within less than a year of leaving my full-time, part-time corporate job that I had before. Life is starting to feel exciting. I'm still having crashes after doing too much, so I still have to be really careful with how much I socialize, how much I do. Public spaces are still a lot, and I have to not travel too far to still conserve energy. But slowly, with doing all of these things, the nervous system regulation piece really is the biggest foundational piece that allowed the rest to work. Oh yeah, and that year I tried to come off of the high dose of the DHEA and pregnenolone, but it didn't work. Like, even though I reduced it by a little bit, my energy crashed. So I realized it was a bit too early to come off of that year. 2020, that would be my 7th year in recovery. Now things are really starting to look different. I complete my 2nd year of the psychotherapy program and start my 3rd year. I do Smart Body, Smart Mind for the 5th time. Yes, this is a 3-month program that I keep repeating because the practices work for me. And now I do it in my everyday life, and it's just part of my life. But anyways, 5th time I do that. I start seeing a new naturopath who helped me wean off of the high dose of hormones. We started IV therapy. We reduced the number of supplements I was taking because I felt like that was stressful, spending so much money on supplements that I felt weren't working. I also continue to do somatic experiencing sessions on myself and acupuncture. Oh, I forgot to mention that I stopped doing mindfulness meditation practices. I swapped it out for the somatic stuff because I didn't have the energy and time to do both at the same time. And that was fine because I realized that mindfulness is also a lifestyle thing. It doesn't leave you if you stop sitting, cross-legged and doing the meditation, the focused meditation. In fact, somatic experiencing was a mindfulness practice in itself because it helped me go into my body and feel what was going on in different kinds of somatic practices ways. And 2 other major things that happened in 2020 was that I started adding strength training again. It was a slow process at the beginning of the year. I looked for a physiotherapist or a strength trainer who would help me go from 0. I lost all of my muscle mass and all of my conditioning. And I knew I had to go really slowly, like just do a few minutes of body weight stuff, moving my body, stressing it a little bit, but not too much, and see if I can improve in exercise. I felt like I had now enough reserve energy to be able to do that. And it wasn't an easy process. Starting to exercise when you haven't been in a long time, you have to go through discomfort, what I found is that if I just went a little bit, but not too much, then that day and maybe the next morning, I would feel worse, but then I would feel better. And so I started going for walks in nature. I started increasing my exercise and then plateauing at the same level for some time to get used to that, and then increasing it a little bit. And Alex Howard talks about that in a chapter beautifully, about increasing it just by 1% and not more, and finding your baseline first. And so I had intuitively done that, but I had that intuition because I was doing all of these neurosensory practices, these somatic practices, and I had a much better sense of what was going on in my body and what the boundaries were and what was too much and what was just right. So that whole year, I incrementally increased my physical activities. I also start rock climbing again. I go for bigger hikes. And then I also start dating again, and I meet my boyfriend back then. And the love chemicals, the oxytocin was all flooding my body, and it felt great. And I believe that that was also part of my healing, is to just feel so much love, the love of, that new love that you experience at the beginning of a relationship. And that towards the end of the year, I start my final year of the therapy practitioner training. I still crash if I do too much, but I can do significantly more. I can almost climb up a mountain and down with so much less consequence than before. And I'm climbing at a much higher level than I had in over 7 years. And now in 2021, 8 years since the start of chronic fatigue, I call myself fully recovered, because at some point in that year, I'm experiencing that I can do so much stuff. I have a normal life. And if I overdo it, I get tired, sleep it off, and I recover. There are no crashes, no energy crashes, no negative consequences. My symptoms don't flare up anymore. And that was so amazing to experience. And after I graduated Clear Mind, so the psychotherapy program, I then started my psychotherapy business. I got licensed. And for the first month, doing that plus my technical writing freelance job was a bit much. So I did experience a mini burnout, but I recovered within less than a month. I got the IV therapy that I needed. I reduced my workload and I recovered. And that was amazing for me to experience, that I could feel this burnout, that like the old part of insomnia, migraines, that fatigue that happened in my body, and to bounce back. I was bouncing back. It was amazing. At this point, my energy is great. My sleep, still, I'm struggling with that. But looking back, even in my 20s, I struggled with sleep. I used marijuana to try to shut off my brain to fall asleep, because otherwise it kept on going. So I basically was numbing myself, but not really dealing with the root issues of not being able to sleep. I still listen to yoga nidras to fall asleep. It still takes me an hour to 2 to fall asleep, but once I'm asleep, I sleep through the night. Maybe I wake up a few times to go to the bathroom, but I feel more rested waking up, and I can do yoga, I can exercise in the morning. End of 2021, I also move in with my boyfriend and his kids. The relationship doesn't go well. It was a really difficult transition for me, and I break up in 2022. I experience another mini burnout. It takes me a few months to recover from that heartache and from having tried so hard to make that relationship work. But during that recovery process, I do plant medicine ceremonies, shamanic and energy healing. I do intense counseling, and I just go deep into looking at my attachment wounds that were showing up in that relationship. And even though I was tired, I had the capacity, the nervous system capacity, to be able to process some pretty deep and intense stuff at this point. So this is 2022. If I would have attempted these things before I started the nervous system work, it would have backfired, and I would have had months of recovery, needed months of recovery time from those things. So that's just a testament of, how healthy and how much energy and how much capacity I had, even though I was exhausted. And after the breakup, things just go uphill. In 2023, that's the year I decide to, so I had turned 40 the year before, and I decide I follow my dream and go to Bali. And I've been here since, so it's my third year here in Bali, and I've been blooming since. And I noticed in the first 2 months of being in Bali, I was able to fall asleep without yoga nidras. So my sleep is so good here. And I had the ability to join a lot of workshops, a lot of retreats. I discovered Tantra, discovered my sensuality, my femininity. And I also transitioned to doing my therapy business full time. So I'm really doing what makes me feel alive and vibrant. And I have this ability to go in and out of this perfect work-life balance of where sometimes, yes, I need to hustle, but I also know how to relax and be with community and friends and nourish my body. So from this today, when I'm shooting the video, this has been a 12-year journey to come to today, and not just having energy, but really expanding into life. If any of my recovery journey inspires you or gives you hope, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and leave a comment with what inspired you most.